I thought I was in control. That sentence lived in my chest like a rule. I made the plans. I paid the bills. I chose the school, the doctor, the dinner, the small words my son was allowed to say when visitors came. People called me steady, calm, the kind of woman who never lost her head. I liked that. I liked being the anchor. Before we begin, please do me a quick favor. If you love real heavy stories that pull at the heart, hit subscribe, tap the like button, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next part of this story. Also, tell me in the comments what part of the country you're watching from. I love seeing where my friends are watching from. It was a late Tuesday. Rain tapped the windows like someone impatient. I had just finished putting the last file into my briefcase. Tomorrow I had a meeting that could change everything. A promotion that would mean money, respect, a place at the table where my voice finally mattered. I smoothed the front of my dress and breathed in the house. Quiet. Clean. I told myself I had done everything. The lunches packed, the rent paid, the school forms signed. I was ready. Then the front door banged open. My son came in like a small hurricane. He had that wild look grown-ups call, too much feeling at once. He was tall now, older than I liked to admit. He held something in his hands, a thin manila envelope, its edges soft from being opened and closed. He didn't say hello. He only stood in the doorway, breathing hard, rain on his hair. "Mom," he said. His voice was low but steady. The word sounded different when he said it. Not the warm name I used to hear. Not the name of the boy who used to wait for bedtime stories. There was a distance in it that hit me like a slap. "Hi, love," I said, forcing my smile into place. "What's wrong?" He walked in and set the envelope on the kitchen table. He didn't look at me while he did it. He set it down like a thing that had to be handled carefully, like a fragile animal. Then he leaned both hands on the table and looked straight at me. "I need to show you something," he said. My heart did a small, stupid thing, a skip and a jump, because I had not planned for this. I had planned my life in neat columns. Work, pay, school, my son's soccer practice. I had not planned for whatever he held. I supposed I had been bored by life's smaller surprises. He opened the envelope with fingers that trembled a little. Out fell papers, a photograph, a printout from a hospital, and a folded piece of paper with a hospital stamp. He spread them on the table like cards. I felt my control tighten. "What is this?" I asked. Calm. Don't let him see you break." He picked up the photograph. It was old, the kind of photo with the edges chewed by time. 2 babies in a hospital bassinet. The date at the bottom was the day I had given birth to him. "My birth date," he said. "Same day." I blinked. "I was there," I said. I had been there. I remembered the hospital room, the blue curtain, the nurse with tired eyes. I remembered the first time I held him, the way his fingers clutched my thumb like a magnet. I remembered thinking, "This is mine." I remembered the smell of baby soap, the small whimper that sounded like the world beginning. He kept looking at the papers. "Look at this," he said, handing me a hospital form. They wrote both our names. "But this says something different." My fingers closed around the paper like a wall. I read the lines. My name was there. His name was there. But another name was printed in a different place. A note. A footnote. It said, "Possible mix-up. Check ID bands." I read that sentence again and felt the room lean. "Maybe it's a mistake," I said. "Hospitals make mistakes in paperwork sometimes." He shook his head. "I found other things," he said. "I found the log. A transfer sheet. And this." He pushed a small printout toward me. It was a copy of an email, a scanned record from the hospital. It mentioned 2 babies, 2 mothers, and that one baby had been taken to the wrong ward for an hour. For a second, I could not breathe. My carefully stacked life tilted like a book shoved from the shelf. "You can't be serious," I whispered. My voice sounded far away. I had always been the one to pick him up from school, to dry his tears, to tuck him in. I had been his mother. I had done the mother things that do not need proof. The way he liked honey on his toast, the way he folded his socks, the stupid joke he loved. Those things felt like evidence. He swallowed. I had a friend help me check. I tracked down old nurses. One remembered. She said 2 babies were mixed for a short time. She said it was fixed, but she was worried that something else happened. Something else. The words dropped between us like stones. I felt the room spin cold. I thought of control, how it had been my hand on everything. I thought of all the decisions I'd made for him. If he wasn't mine by blood, what did that mean? Did it change the nights I had waked for him? Did it change the warmth of his forehead on my chest? Was love proof enough? Or was my sense of who I was, as his mother, as the woman who steered the ship, some false thing I had built on sand? You did all this. Why? I asked, trying to pin his eyes to mine. Why did you dig this up now? He looked so small and so enormous at once. Because I needed to know, he said. Because I felt like I didn't belong in a house that had no truth. Because I found a name. He tapped the folded paper. This has a name on it. A man's name. And a phone number. My hand went cold. My mind tried to fill the space between his words. A name. A phone number. My head filled with pictures I had not allowed myself to see. A man waiting outside, a call I had not taken, a story I had not told. I had been in control of the story I told the world. I had decided what people knew about our family. I had decided when to say yes and when to say no. I had chosen the teacher, the church, the name on his birth certificate. I had held the map. But suddenly, with one thin envelope and a photograph, my map was no longer mine alone. What do you want me to do? I asked. That was the stupidest thing I had ever asked. Of course I wanted to do everything. Of course I wanted to protect him. Of course I wanted to keep the life I had built. But the walls were full of doors I had not known existed. He folded his hands. I don't want to scare you, he said. I want the truth. If I belong here because someone made a mistake, I need to know. If I belong because you are my mother no matter what the papers say, I need to hear you. The way he said it, gentle, steady, made the floor under me shift. He wanted truth, not anger. He wanted a reason, not a fight. He wanted a place to stand, and he was asking me to hold it for him. Then the house phone, the old one I hated but kept for mornings, started to ring. A slow, deep, impossible sound. We both froze. My mouth forgot the words it wanted to say. My son's eyes darted to the phone and then to me. He closed his hands around the photo and the papers like a lifeline. Don't answer, he whispered. I found I could not move. My hand hovered over the receiver. The phone rang again. Short. Urgent. 3 times. I heard a footstep outside the front door. Not mine, not my son's. Heavy. Certain. My skin prickled. The rain on the window sounded like a drum. The room narrowed to the white cord of the phone, the photo in my son's hands, and the single sound of someone at our door. Then the knock came. One sharp rap that stopped the world. My son looked at me. I looked at him. The secret we had not yet named sat on the table between us. The thin envelope a small, accusing thing. Mom, he said softly. Open the door. My breath came out like a broken thing. I wanted to hold on to control so badly that my fingers hurt. I wanted to make a plan and to fix the mess with the calm I always wore. But I could feel the truth moving like water under the sand. It wanted out. I stood, my legs a little rubbery. My hand reached for the doorknob. Before I could turn it, there was a voice through the wood. A voice I had never heard before, but that made something inside me tremble. Is Marissa Turner home? The voice asked. My name is Thomas Reed. I think you have my son. The doorknob felt hot under my palm. The kitchen light hummed. The rain made a bright halo in the window. My son's grip on the photograph tightened. He looked at me with eyes I did not recognize. I thought I was in control, until my son walked in with the truth I never saw coming. And now, with a man's name at the door. The knock echoed again. Not loud. Not angry. Just firm, like someone sure of the truth they carried. My hand hovered on the doorknob, but my mind was running in every direction at once. My son stood behind me, gripping the photograph so tightly it bent in the middle. The house suddenly felt too small for the both of us. Too small for the secrets pressing against the walls. "Mom, are you going to open it?" he whispered. I swallowed hard. I don't know yet. But the truth was, I did know. I had known from the moment I heard the man's voice. Gentle, steady, too calm for a stranger who had come to tear a life apart. My son took a step closer. "You said we shouldn't hide things from each other anymore." His voice stung. He wasn't attacking me. He was reminding me. And it hurt worse that he was right. The knock came a third time. "Marissa, please. I'm not here to cause trouble. I just want to talk." That voice again. Patient, almost pleading. I breathed in, then out. Finally, I unlocked the door and opened it just enough to see the man standing on my porch. He was tall, late 40s maybe, his hair touched with gray at the temples. Rain soaked his jacket, but he didn't look angry. He looked tired. Like someone who had searched too long for something and wasn't sure what he would find. His eyes drifted past my shoulder, toward the shape of my son behind me. Then the man froze. My son froze too. And that silence, that heavy, painful silence, wrapped around all three of us. I tightened my grip on the door. "What do you want?" He blinked, startled by the sharpness in my tone. "I'm sorry. I've been looking for answers for years. The hospital told me there was a possibility of a mix-up the night my son was born." My chest tightened. "And when I saw the photo your son uploaded online, looking for information, He stopped, voice trembling slightly. "He looks exactly like my father." My son's breath hitched. I felt him step closer, just behind my shoulder. I wanted to shield him. I wanted to hide him. I wanted to run. But I didn't move. "Please," the man said, lowering his voice. "I'm not here to take anything from you. I just need to know." My lips trembled. "How did you find my address?" He hesitated. "Your son listed a contact email for anyone who might know what happened that night." I reached out. He never replied. But I recognized the neighborhood name in one of his old posts. My heart dropped. My son had been searching long before today. I didn't turn around to look at him. I couldn't. Not yet. "I think," the man continued softly, "that the baby I held for only 1 minute wasn't really mine." My son stepped forward before I could stop him. "If that's true, then who am I? And who raised your real son?" The man's eyes softened with a pain that only a parent could understand. "That's why I'm here." The world spun. This was too much. Too fast. Too real. I opened the door wider, barely, and motioned for him to step inside. He nodded gratefully and walked in slowly, carefully, like he was afraid his presence might break us. My son stood across from him, the photo still clutched in his hand. For a moment, they just stared at each other, and something unspoken passed between them. Recognition? Hope? Fear? I wasn't sure. I moved to the kitchen table and sat down before my legs could fail me. The envelope with the hospital papers still lay there, open and accusing. Thomas, the man, looked around the room, then spoke quietly. At first, I didn't believe the hospital. I thought everything was fine. But when my son grew, things didn't add up. His medical records didn't match mine or his mother's. And then... He paused, eyes darkening. "My wife left. She said she couldn't live with the feeling that the child she raised didn't belong to her. She blamed me for not finding the truth sooner." I felt my breath catch. My son looked down at the floor, shoulders sinking. And when she left, Thomas continued, I started searching everywhere. Every hospital, every record, every nurse who worked that night. For 15 years, I've been trying to find out what happened. 15 years. My throat tightened. That was almost my son's entire life. I'm sorry, I whispered. He gave a soft, broken laugh. I'm not here for an apology. I'm here for the truth. I just want to know who my son is. And who your son really belongs to. The room went silent again. My son slowly lifted the photograph. Do you think I'm yours? Thomas's voice cracked. I don't know. But when I saw your picture, the way your eyes look, the shape of your face, it felt like looking into a memory I never got to keep. My son's eyebrows pulled together. He bit his lips and whispered, If you think I'm yours, then where is her son? Where is the baby Mom gave birth to? My heart felt like glass. I whispered, barely audible, We don't know. Thomas nodded. That's why we need to get a DNA test. All of us. It's the only way to be sure. My breath shook. A DNA test. The thing that could rip everything apart. Or stitch a new truth together in a way none of us were ready for. My son turned to me, his voice trembling. Mom, will you do it? Before I could answer, a sudden loud noise hit the house. A hard slam from the back door. Thomas stiffened. My son jumped. I felt my heart stop. We weren't expecting anyone. The wind didn't make doors slam like that. Someone was inside the house. My son whispered, Mom, who else has a key? My voice shook. No one. Then we heard footsteps, slow, deliberate, coming down the hallway. My son's face turned pale. Thomas stepped forward protectively. I stood up, every part of me trembling. The footsteps stopped right outside the kitchen. And then, the figure stepped into the light. Someone none of us expected. Not a stranger. Not a burglar. But someone whose presence changed everything. My son gasped. Thomas froze. I felt the blood drain from my face. Because standing in the doorway was the real son I gave birth to. The room froze. My breath stopped. My son, the boy I had raised, loved, protected, stood beside me, trembling. But the boy in the doorway, the one with the same nose as mine, the same curl on his left eyebrow, the same tiny birthmark I had seen on a baby's foot 15 years ago. He stared at me like he had been searching for my face his whole life. Mom, he whispered again, his voice cracking. We need to talk. Thomas's eyes widened. He stumbled back a step, hand on the chair for balance. My son, the one who came home with the envelope, tightened his jaw. His eyes darted between the two boys. I don't understand, he whispered. Who is he? The boy in the doorway took a shaky breath and stepped forward. Rain dripped from his jacket, soaking onto my floor. His clothes were worn. His face looked tired in a way no 15-year-old should look tired. He swallowed hard. I think. I'm the baby you gave birth to. The room spun. My knees buckled, and I grabbed the table to steady myself. No, I whispered. That's not possible. How did you find us? He opened his hand. He was holding a bracelet, the kind hospitals put on newborns. Faded ink. Bent plastic. But the name on it. My name. My stomach twisted. I've had this my whole life, he said softly. My foster mom kept it. She told me she found it in my blanket the day she took me home. She didn't know who it belonged to. Foster mom. The words stabbed through me like a knife. My voice cracked. You didn't grow up with your parents. He shook his head. No. I grew up in 3 different foster homes. And then one more after that. No one knew where I came from. No record. Just this bracelet. And a nurse who remembered something strange about the night I was born. Thomas gasped. You talked to a nurse too? The boy nodded. She said 2 babies went missing from their ward for almost an hour. And when they returned, she felt something was wrong. But everyone told her to stay quiet. My world tilted. My son, the boy I raised, looked shattered. Completely. So, if you're her real son, he whispered, stepping back, voice breaking. The boy in the doorway finished the sentence for him. Then who are you? The air felt like glass ready to break. Thomas sank into a chair, burying his face in his hands. 2 switched babies, he murmured. 2 families torn apart, and no one knew. I forced myself to breathe, even though every inhale felt like swallowing fire. Where are your foster parents now? I asked gently. He shook his head. My last foster mom passed away 2 months ago. She left a letter saying she always believed the bracelet meant something. She told me to find the truth. And I found her. His eyes met mine, deep, searching. I found you. Tears blurred my vision. He looked so much like me it hurt to breathe. But then, my son, the boy I had raised, stepped back again, voice trembling violently. Mom, he whispered, do you love him more than me now? My heart split open. No, never. But he shook his head and cut me off. Everything I thought I knew, everything I thought I was, it's all lies now. I reached for him. Sweetheart, you are my son. Am I? He snapped. Tears filled his eyes. Or am I just someone else's mistake? The words hit me harder than a punch. Before I could answer, Thomas stood up suddenly, voice sharp with panic. If he's your biological son, then where's mine? Where did he grow up? What happened to him? Who raised him? The boy in the doorway stared at Thomas, confused. Who are you? Thomas swallowed. I think I'm your biological father. The boy's face drained of color. No, that can't be. He stumbled back, nearly tripping. I've never had a dad. Nobody wanted me. You can't just show up now. Thomas reached a hand toward him. I didn't know. If I had known. The boy slapped his hand away, voice cracking into a scream. You didn't look for me. I did. Thomas shouted back, his voice full of pain. For 15 years I searched. I searched until I lost everything. My raised son stepped between them. This is insane, he whispered. This is too much. I shouldn't even be here. He turned away. I need air. No, I reached out. He didn't let me stop him. He ran. Out the front door. Into the rain. I chased him to the porch, my heart breaking with every step. Please, I cried. Don't run from me. But he didn't look back. He disappeared into the dark street. I felt my chest collapse. My knees hit the porch floor. Rain soaked my hair and face, mixing with tears I didn't even feel falling. Behind me, Thomas stepped outside slowly. And beside him, the boy from the doorway whispered, trembling. Mom, he's running away because of me. Isn't he? I looked at both boys, one who had my blood, one who had my heart, and I felt a kind of pain I didn't know humans could hold. But then, before I could answer, a bright flash lit the street. Headlights. A car. Coming fast. Too fast. And my son, the boy I raised, stepped directly into the road. I screamed his name. Thomas grabbed my arm. The headlights swerved. The tires screeched. And then, a sickening thud broke the night apart. My scream tore the air. The world stopped. The sound of the thud kept echoing in my ears long after the street went silent. For one terrifying moment, I could not move, could not breathe, could not think. The rain blurred everything, running into my eyes, mixing with tears I didn't remember releasing. No, I choked, stumbling down the steps. Thomas ran beside me. The boy, the one who might be my biological son, followed close behind, his face pale with horror. My eyes searched the street wildly until they landed on a shape lying on the wet pavement. My son. My baby. The boy I had raised. He wasn't moving. My heart split open. "Please," I screamed. "Someone help us." Thomas reached him first, kneeling beside the fallen body. "He's breathing," Thomas said shakily. "Barely. But he's breathing." I dropped to the ground beside them, my hands trembling as I touched his cold, rain-soaked cheek. "Oh God, sweetheart, please talk to me." His eyelids fluttered. "Just barely." The boy behind me whispered in a trembling voice. Is he going to die?" I heard the fear in his voice. I also heard the guilt. A part of him believed he caused this. A part of me, a small, broken part, feared he might be right. But I pushed that thought away. There would be time for truth later. Right now, my son needed me. I grabbed my phone with shaking hands and dialed emergency services. "Please," I cried into the phone. "My son, he's been hit by a car. Please hurry." The operator asked questions, but everything felt distant, muffled, like I was underwater. Thomas stayed by my son, shielding him from the rain with his jacket. The other boy, the stranger who was somehow mine, hovered behind us, crying silently. Sirens wailed in the distance. The boy whispered, voice barely audible, "I didn't mean for this to happen. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." I turned to him, eyes burning. "This is not your fault." He flinched. The truth was more complicated than any of us were ready for. But blaming him wouldn't save the boy lying in the street. The ambulance arrived with flashing red lights that made everything look even more unreal. Paramedics rushed toward us. "He's unconscious," Thomas explained quickly. "Hit by a car. Breathing is shallow." They lifted my son onto a stretcher carefully. My heart shattered all over again when his head fell limply to the side. "Wait," I cried. "Please, please be gentle. He's just a child. Please." "Ma'am, we're doing everything we can," one paramedic said kindly. They loaded him inside the ambulance. I climbed in immediately. But before the doors shut, the paramedic stopped me. "Are you his biological mother?" he asked. For the first time in my life. I didn't know how to answer. I'm the mother who raised him. I'm the only mother he's ever known." The man paused, then nodded. "Then get in. He needs you." The doors closed. As the ambulance started moving, I looked out through the small window. Thomas stood in the street, drenched, watching us leave. And beside him stood the boy with my birthmark, the boy who looked like me, hugging himself tightly, shaking in the rain. His lips formed one silent sentence. "Please come back." The ambulance sped through the city. Machines beeped around us. A paramedic pressed a mask to my son's face, muttering numbers I couldn't understand. I held his hand, whispering, "I'm here. I'm here. Please stay with me." Then, suddenly, his fingers twitched. My heart leaped. "Sweetheart, can you hear me?" His eyes opened halfway, then closed again. But just before he slipped back into unconsciousness, he whispered something so soft I barely caught it. "Don't replace me." My chest cracked open. "Oh baby. No, no, you are not replaceable. You are my son. Always." He didn't respond. The ambulance jerked to a stop. Doctors rushed him into the emergency room, pushing me aside gently. "Ma'am, please wait here." "No." I tried to follow, but a nurse held my arm. "That's my son. He needs me. We need space to work," she said firmly. "We'll come get you the moment he's stable." I sank into a chair, shaking, sobbing, praying. Minutes felt like hours. Hours felt like days. Finally, the doors swung open. Thomas burst into the room, panting, dripping wet. The other boy ran in after him, trying to keep up. Where is he? Is he alive? Thomas asked. I shook my head. They won't tell me anything yet. The boy sat across from me, his knee bouncing, eyes red from crying. Is he going to hate me? He whispered. No, I said gently. He's scared. That's all. Thomas paced the room in tight circles. We need DNA tests. We need to know who belongs to who. We can't keep living in the dark. Before he finished, a doctor pushed through the emergency doors, holding a chart. We all jumped to our feet. Your son, the doctor said carefully, is alive. But he's in critical condition. My knees almost gave out. The doctor continued, we need consent to run certain tests. And we need the names of both biological parents. My heart dropped. Both parents. I didn't know who those were anymore. I don't know, I whispered helplessly. The doctor frowned. Ma'am, without accurate medical history, his chances of recovery change. We need the truth. I swallowed, trembling. We think there was a baby swap. At birth. The doctor blinked slowly, stunned. Then he said something that froze all three of us. If that's true, then I need to inform you of something urgent. We leaned in. Your son, the doctor said, has a condition that is extremely rare, and often hereditary. My heart slammed against my ribs. Thomas's face drained of color. The boy beside him stared with wide eyes. The doctor cleared his throat. We need to know immediately which one of you he is genetically related to, because only one of you may be able to save his life. The room spun again. Please, the doctor said, we must run DNA tests on all of you, right now. And before any of us could speak, the lights in the hallway flickered. Once. Twice. Then the hospital emergency alarm began to blare, and nurses started running past us. Something was very, very wrong. The hospital alarm wailed through the hallway, a long, sharp cry that made every doctor and nurse move faster. Lights flickered overhead. Footsteps thundered past us. Something inside me snapped back into alertness. What's happening? I asked a nurse who rushed by. Power fluctuation in the East Wing, she said quickly. Backup generators are kicking in, but some machines need to be reset. Please stay where you are. I grabbed Thomas's arm. My son is in that wing. The nurse stopped just long enough to check the chart in her hand. Yes, he is. But he's stable for the moment. We're keeping an eye on him. Please stay calm. Stay calm. My world had been falling apart since the moment my son walked in with that envelope. There was no calm left inside me. I turned to the two people standing beside me, Thomas pacing and pinching the bridge of his nose, and the boy who might be my biological son, sitting frozen in the waiting chair, shaking. The lights flickered again. He whispered, voice cracking, if something happens to him, I'll never forgive myself. I knelt in front of him. Look at me. His eyes lifted slowly, scared, fragile, searching for something to hold on to. This is not your fault, I said firmly. What happened out there was an accident. A terrible one. But you did not push him into the street. You didn't hurt him. You didn't do anything wrong. But he ran because of me, he whispered. No, I said, grabbing his hands. He ran because he was overwhelmed. Because everything he knew changed in a single day. Anyone would have reacted the same. He dropped his head, tears falling onto his jeans. Thomas stopped pacing. Right now, we need answers. Fast. The doctor said only one of us might be able to help him. That means this isn't just about the truth. It's about survival. The boy swallowed hard. If he needs blood, or a donor, and I'm not the one who can help. We'll help him, I said quickly. All of us. Whatever it takes. Just then, the doctor returned, a folder tucked under his arm. Good news, he said breathlessly. The machines in the East Wing are stable again. Your son is still unconscious, but he's holding on. I released a shaky breath. But we cannot delay the DNA test, the doctor continued. His condition is worsening. We need to know who his biological father is immediately. This time, Thomas didn't look confused. He looked terrified. The doctor gestured toward a small room beside the waiting area. Please follow me. We'll collect samples now. Inside the room, everything felt too quiet, too bright, too small. The doctor set out 3 swabs. One from each of you, he instructed. We'll rush the test. It may take 1 to 2 hours. 2 hours? My son didn't have hours. I opened my mouth to beg him to hurry, but before I could speak, the boy stepped forward, holding out his hand. I'll go first. His bravery caught me off guard. I watched as the doctor swabbed the inside of his cheek. He squeezed his eyes shut like it hurt, but it was fear, not pain. Thomas went next, jaw tight, hands trembling slightly. When it was my turn, I felt my heart pounding in my ears. What if the result confirmed my deepest fear? What if my son had never truly been mine? After the samples were collected, the doctor rushed out, promising to return the moment results came in. For a moment, the 3 of us just stood there, silent, breathing the same air, but miles apart. I finally spoke. We need to stick together, no matter what the results say. Thomas nodded. Agreed. Then he looked at the boy beside him, the boy who might be his real child. And he whispered, Are you okay? The boy shrugged helplessly. I don't know how to be okay. My whole life, I thought nobody wanted me. Then suddenly, maybe I have a mom. Maybe I have a dad. Maybe I have a brother. And now, his voice cracked. Now that brother is dying in a room I can't even go into. Thomas's face softened with a pain I had never seen on him before. I looked for you, he said gently. I swear I did. I never stopped. The boy blinked away tears. I want to believe that. You don't have to, Thomas said. Just give me a chance. The boy didn't answer. But he didn't run either. That was enough for now. Suddenly, the emergency room doors flew open again. A nurse sprinted out. Where's the family of the teenage boy who was hit by a car? My heart jumped. I'm his mother. She ran toward us, breathless. You need to come now. My stomach dropped. What happened? Thomas demanded. The nurse looked shaken. His heart rate is dropping fast. He's slipping. I felt everything inside me collapse. No. No. Bring them. A doctor shouted from inside the hall. We followed the nurse down the corridor at a run, fear pounding through every step. The machines in my son's room were beeping wildly. Nurses surrounded the bed. A doctor was shouting instructions. Then, the doctor turned to me, face pale. He needs a transfusion now. We can't wait for the DNA results. My chest squeezed. Then take mine. We checked your blood type earlier, he said, shaking his head. It's not compatible. I felt the world tilt. Thomas stepped forward. Test mine. We already did, the doctor said quickly. Yours is also not a match. Thomas froze. Not a match. Then, slowly, every head in the room turned toward the 3rd boy. The boy with my eyes. My birthmark. My blood. The doctor swallowed hard. Son, your blood type matches. You may be the only one who can save him. The boy staggered back, eyes wide. Me. I grabbed his hand. Please, I whispered, tears streaming. Please save him. He's your brother. His breath shook. Then he nodded. I'll do it. The doctor rushed him out of the room. The door swung shut. And I collapsed into Thomas's arms, sobbing, praying, shaking uncontrollably. Because now, my sons, both of them, were connected by more than a mistake. They were connected by life. One giving, one receiving. And me, stuck in the middle, praying neither truth nor fate would take either of them from me. But just as I wiped my tears, the door burst open again. A nurse yelled, "We have a problem." I froze. What problem? I gasped. The nurse looked terrified. The donor boy, he just collapsed. The world spun. The nurse's words hit me like a punch to the chest. The donor boy, he just collapsed. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My legs turned weak, and the room started spinning. Thomas grabbed my arm before I fell. "What do you mean collapsed?" I gasped. "Where is he? Take me to him." The nurse motioned urgently. "Follow me, now." We ran down the hall, turning sharply into another room where doctors were already gathered around the boy. My biological son, the one with my birthmark. The one who looked so much like me. He was on the floor, half conscious, pale, trembling. A doctor was checking his pulse. His blood pressure crashed. He's severely dehydrated and malnourished. We need to stabilize him before he can donate anything. Malnourished. My heart broke all over again. Dehydrated. Thomas echoed, stunned. The doctor nodded grimly. His body is weak. Very weak. If he donates blood right now, it could put his life at risk. I fell to my knees beside the boy. He looked at me through heavy eyelids, trying to smile. I'm okay," he whispered weakly. "Just dizzy." "No, sweetheart," I said, brushing the wet curls from his forehead. "You're not okay. You need help too." His voice cracked. "But your other son, he needs me." I felt the sting of tears rise again. He wasn't thinking about himself at all. He was only thinking of the brother he'd never known. The boy attempted to push himself up, but his arms shook violently. He winced in pain. A nurse gently held him down. "Don't move, honey. Let us help you." "Doctor," I said desperately, "what can we do? My other son is dying." The doctor tightened his jaw. "We're giving this boy fluids and trying to stabilize him. But it might take an hour, maybe 2. 2 hours. I cried. My son might not have 2 hours. Thomas ran his hand through his hair, pacing anxiously. There has to be another solution. Another donor. Another way. The doctor sighed. Without a match, your son's chances drop sharply. I felt panic clawing at my throat. 2 boys. Both in danger. Both connected by a mistake none of us made. How did he get this malnourished? Thomas asked, voice tight. The boy blinked slowly, hesitating. I didn't want to bother anyone. After my foster mom died, I didn't really have much. Some days I ate. Some days I didn't. My heart shattered again. "Oh God," I whispered. "You went through all that alone?" He gave a tired half smile. "I'm used to it. But I'm fine. I can still donate." "No," I said firmly, taking his hand. "You will not die to save him. I won't lose either of you." He swallowed hard. "But if he dies, then this was all for nothing." I felt my breath catch. He wasn't talking about the blood anymore. He was talking about himself. His search. His whole lonely life. Just then, a phone buzzed loudly in the room, a nurse's device. She answered, listened, then gasped. "What? How?" Every head turned toward her. She hung up and looked at the doctor with wide eyes. "We have another emergency developing. The teen boy in room 12, the one hit by the car, he's going into cardiac distress again." My body froze. "No," I whispered. "No, please, not again." Another nurse appeared at the doorway. "We need the mother right now. Hurry." I squeezed the biological boy's hand once more. "I'll be right back." He nodded weakly. "Go, save him." I ran down the hall with Thomas beside me. The sky outside flashed with lightning, making the hallway glow white for a moment. Thunder boomed in the distance. Even the weather seemed angry. When we reached room 12, I saw doctors surrounding my unconscious son, the boy I had raised, as machines beeped wildly. His heart rhythm is unstable, a doctor said. We're losing him. No, I screamed. They began emergency procedures, calling out numbers and instructions I didn't understand. Thomas stood beside me, clenching his fists. We're running out of time. That boy, the biological son, he has to donate, even if it's risky. He's the only match. The doctor shook his head. If we take blood from him right now, he could go into shock. He might not survive the procedure. I covered my mouth with trembling hands. Save one child. Put the other in danger. How was any mother supposed to choose? Doctor, a nurse shouted suddenly. The lab just sent this. The DNA results are ready. My heart dropped. The results. The truth, the real truth, was about to come out. The doctor grabbed the envelope from the nurse, tore it open, and scanned the paper. For a moment, the world stood still. His eyes widened. Then he looked up at us slowly. Very slowly. Ma'am. Thomas, the doctor said, voice trembling. I need both of you to sit down for this. My heart stopped. Thomas swallowed hard. The doctor exhaled shakily. The DNA results show. He took a deep breath. Neither of you are the biological parents of the boy lying in the emergency room. The floor disappeared beneath me. I felt my body go cold. Thomas staggered back, stunned. The doctor continued, voice softer now. And the donor boy, the one who collapsed, he's not genetically related to either of you either. I froze. My voice barely came out. Then, whose children are they? The doctor looked at us with the saddest eyes I had ever seen. That means, there was not just one baby switched at birth. Thunder shook the building. Lightning flashed again. The doctor whispered the words that changed everything. There were 3 babies involved. My breath choked in my throat. 3. 3 babies. 3 families. 3 lives stolen and twisted. Before I could speak, a nurse burst into the room with another shock. Doctor, someone just arrived at the front desk. She paused, breathless, claiming one of these boys is their missing child. My blood ran cold. Thomas whispered. What is happening? The nurse finished. And they're demanding to see the mother. I blinked. Me. She nodded slowly. Yes. You. My chest tightened. Who are they? I whispered. The nurse swallowed hard. They said their name is Dr. Helen Carter. The name hit Thomas like a blow. He turned pale. I frowned. Who is that? Thomas whispered shakily. She's the head doctor from the hospital where our babies were born. And the person who signed the original birth logs. My heart dropped. The nurse stepped closer, voice trembling. She said, she knows the truth. My pulse raced. What truth? The nurse took a deep breath. She said the babies weren't switched. Lightning flashed again. Thunder boomed. They were hidden. For a moment, I couldn't move. Hidden. Not switched. Hidden. The word rattled around my mind like a loose stone, sharp and terrifying. Thomas stepped back, shaking his head. No, that can't be true. That can't be what she meant. The nurse swallowed. She's in the consultation room. She asked to speak to the mother first. Me? I whispered. Why me? Because, the nurse said quietly. She said you were the first one affected. My stomach twisted. Affected? 3 boys. 3 different families. 3 different lives. What did affected even mean anymore? But there was no time to think. My son, the one I raised, was fighting for his life in the next room. The biological look-alike boy lay unconscious somewhere else, weak and shaking. And now a woman from the past had come to reveal something far worse. I stood up, legs trembling. "Take me to her." Thomas grabbed my arm. "We're going together." The nurse nodded. "Follow me." As we walked, the lights flickered again, chased by another roar of thunder. Rain beat against the windows like frantic hands. Finally, the nurse opened a door to a small consultation room. Inside sat a woman in her early 60s, wearing a soaked coat, her hair silver and tied back. Her eyes looked exhausted, not just physically, but like someone who had carried a heavy secret for far too long. When she looked up and saw me, her eyes filled with tears. "You're Marissa Turner," she said softly. My heartbeat stumbled. She knew my name. "Yes," I said cautiously. "Who are you?" She lifted trembling hands to her chest. "My name is Dr. Helen Carter. I was the senior pediatrician on duty the night your son was born." Thomas stiffened beside me. She looked at him too. "And you must be Thomas Reed." He nodded slowly. Dr. Helen closed her eyes briefly, almost as if preparing herself. "I have been searching for both of you for 15 years, she whispered. I stepped closer. "Why?" She didn't answer. Instead, she pulled out a thin, old folder from her bag and slid it across the table. "Because," she said shakily, "3 babies were born in that hospital wing that night. And all 3 of them were never supposed to leave." My blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" I whispered. Her voice cracked. "Those babies were not switched by accident. They were targeted." Thomas shook his head in disbelief. "Targeted? By who?" Dr. Helen looked down, tears slipping down her cheeks. "By the hospital's director. My boss. He was running an illegal adoption ring." The world tilted. My knees buckled. What?" I gasped. She nodded, crying harder now. "He planned to sell 2 of those babies overseas. And one was meant to be taken by a wealthy family who had paid in advance." Thomas slammed a fist on the table. "Why are we only hearing this now?" Dr. Helen flinched. "Because I tried to stop him. And I failed." Silence filled the room. She continued, voice trembling. "That night, he ordered 2 nurses to remove the infants from the mothers before you even had time to bond with them. But I overheard their conversation. I confronted them. They panicked. Everything fell apart. My heart pounded painfully. What happened to the babies?" Dr. Helen wiped her eyes. "In the chaos, the director took one baby himself, the one meant for the wealthy family. He disappeared with the child before anyone could stop him." My breath caught. Thomas covered his mouth. "And the other 2? "The nurses mixed them up trying to hide what they did," she said. "One was left abandoned in a hallway until a foster worker found him hours later. The other was mislabeled and handed to the wrong mother." My world felt like it was collapsing. Which one was my son? Which one wasn't? Who was left in that hallway? Who was stolen? "Why didn't you tell us earlier?" Thomas demanded, voice shaking with rage. "I tried," she cried. "I reported it. But the director had power. He destroyed the files, threatened the staff, and made us all sign confidentiality forms. Anyone who spoke up lost everything." She took a breath. "And I did. I lost my job. I lost my license. I lost my reputation. But I never stopped looking for those boys." I placed a trembling hand on the folder she brought. "What's in here?" She hesitated, then whispered, "The truth about all 3 children." My hand shook as I opened the folder, but Dr. Helen placed her hand over mine, stopping me. "Before you look," she said gently, "you need to know one more thing." I looked up. Her eyes softened. "Only one of those babies was ever meant to survive." My heart stopped. "What?" The room went silent. She swallowed. "One of the infants had a severe medical condition. The director didn't think the baby would live long, so he planned to leave the child in the system and sell the other two. Thomas grabbed the table. Which baby? Dr. Helen wiped her eyes again. That's why I came tonight. To tell you the truth before it's too late. My throat tightened. Which one was sick? She looked at me with tragic eyes. The one fighting for his life in the emergency room. The boy you raised. He was the critically ill infant. My tear-filled eyes widened. No. She nodded tearfully. He wasn't supposed to live past his first year. But you kept him alive. You kept him loved. You gave him a chance he was never meant to have. I broke into sobs. Thomas placed a shaking hand over his mouth, shocked beyond words. Dr. Helen continued softly. And the boy in room 9, the one who collapsed, he is the second baby. The one intended for overseas adoption. My heart pounded. And the third baby? Thomas whispered hoarsely. The one the director took. The one meant for the wealthy family. Where is that child? Dr. Helen took a slow, painful breath. That's why I need to speak with you urgently. Her voice shook as she said the next words. The director died 2 months ago. And in his belongings, they found records of the third child. I leaned forward, breath frozen. Dr. Helen whispered. And that child is alive. Thomas gasped. I pressed a hand to my chest. But there's something else, she added. She looked directly at me. Marissa, he has been looking for you. My breath hitched. Why me? Dr. Helen's voice broke. Because you're his biological mother. The room fell silent. Thunder cracked the sky outside. Thomas whispered in disbelief. There's another boy? Dr. Helen nodded. Yes. And he's on his way here. My body went cold. When? I asked. Her answer made my heart stop. He's already inside the hospital. I staggered back. What? Where? Her voice trembled. He checked himself into the building 10 minutes ago. We all stared at her in shock. Dr. Helen whispered. And he said he won't leave until he meets the woman who brought him into the world. My head spun. 3 boys. 3 lives. 3 truths. And one of them, the one I never knew existed, had just walked into this hospital searching for me. For a moment, nobody spoke. The thunder outside softened into a distant rumble, like even the storm was holding its breath. My heart pounded so loudly that I could barely hear anything else. A third child. A boy I never met. A boy stolen from me before I ever held him. A boy who had grown up in another world, while I raised another woman's son without even knowing. He was here. Inside the hospital. Looking for me. I gripped the edge of the table to steady myself. My legs felt weak, my mind racing. Where is he? I whispered. Dr. Helen took a shaky breath. He signed in as a visitor. He should be in the lobby. But the nurse said he refused to give his real name until he saw you. Why now? Thomas murmured. Why come tonight of all nights? Dr. Helen lowered her gaze. Because when the director died, the estate lawyer mailed him the truth. He learned who his real mother was, and that she lived here. He didn't know about the other 2 boys until recently. My chest tightened painfully. He doesn't know what's happening to them? I asked. She shook her head. Only that 2 other boys were taken the same night he was. I closed my eyes. What would I even say to him? How do you greet a child you lost 15 years ago? How do you look into eyes you should have known since birth? Thomas put a hand on my shoulder. We'll face this together. Before I could answer, a nurse burst into the room. She looked breathless, panicked. Ma'am, your son, the one in room 12, he's crashing again. My world shattered. No. I gasped. His heart rhythm is unstable, she said urgently. We need the donor boy now. But he collapsed. I cried. He's not stable enough to donate. The nurse swallowed. Then the doctors say we need another match. Immediately. Another match. The words hit me hard. Thomas whispered. The third boy. My heart skipped. The nurse continued breathlessly. We need both of you to come with me to confirm something quickly. But Dr. Helen raised a trembling hand. Wait, she said. There's something you need to know first. The nurse hesitated. Dr. Helen turned to me, her voice soft but urgent. Before you meet the third child, before the doctors test him, you need to know something about him. My breath caught. She continued slowly. He didn't grow up like the other two. He wasn't abandoned. He wasn't neglected. He was raised in a wealthy home. He was given everything: money, tutors, travel, comfort. Her eyes darkened with emotion. But he became angry, broken, confused. When he learned the truth, it ruined him. He felt like his entire life was built on someone else's crime. I swallowed hard. Did he hurt anyone? Thomas asked quietly. She shook her head. No. But he hurt himself. He's been unstable since the day he found out he wasn't who he thought he was. I pressed a hand to my chest. Unstable how? I whispered. Dr. Helen hesitated, then whispered. He ran away from home. His adoptive parents said he disappeared for weeks at a time. He has trouble controlling his emotions. And when he heard about the other two boys, he became obsessed with finding you. My stomach dropped. Obsessed. I echoed. She nodded. He said that if you truly are his mother, then he wants answers. All the answers. Thomas frowned. What does he look like? Dr. Helen reached into the folder and handed me a small, recent photograph. My breath left my lungs in a rush. He was tall, strong, confident posture. But his eyes were dark, intense, filled with a sadness that didn't match his expensive clothes. And he looked like my father. My hand shook. He's handsome, Thomas murmured. He's hurting, I whispered. Just then, the nurse reappeared, sweating, voice shaking. We need you now. The doctors said your son has only minutes before his organs begin to fail. Minutes. Not hours. Not even 1. Minutes. My entire body jolted into action. Let's go, I whispered. Thomas, the nurse, and I rushed out of the room. Dr. Helen followed, clutching her old folder like it was the only thing keeping her together. We reached a hallway leading back toward the emergency rooms. But a tall figure stepped out from behind the corner. A shadow at first. Then a shape. Then a face. My breath caught. It was him. The third boy. The one stolen. The one hidden. The one I never knew. He had dark curls dripping rainwater onto his jacket. A backpack slung over one shoulder. Eyes that were searching, desperately, deeply, for something. He looked older than the other two boys. He looked confident, but broken in a way he tried very hard to hide. He stared at me like he was afraid I would disappear. And then he spoke. His voice was deep, shaky, but certain. You're her. I froze. I've been looking for you for months, he continued. I didn't think you were real. I didn't think any of this was real. Thomas stepped protectively beside me. We don't have time. But the boy stepped closer, eyes filled with something wild and aching. I need to know, he said. Are you my mother? My throat tightened painfully. I don't know yet, I whispered. We need a DNA test. His jaw clenched. I don't need a test. I already feel it. The nurse cut in urgently. Sir, we actually do need a test. A boy is dying, and he may need your blood. Please come with us. But the boy raised a hand sharply. No. Everyone froze. Thomas stepped forward. What do you mean, no? A child is dying. The boy's eyes flicked to mine, and for a split second, I saw something terrifying. Fear. Confusion. Possessiveness. He whispered, "If she really is my mother, I'm not giving anything until she talks to me." My heart dropped. "Please," I begged, stepping toward him. "My son, the one in the emergency room, he needs blood. He needs help." He swallowed hard. "I'm sorry, but I've waited my whole life to meet you. I'm not waiting anymore. I need answers. Now." The nurse shook her head frantically. "We don't have time for this." But he didn't move. He stood firm, almost shaking, eyes locked on mine. "Tell me the truth," he said hoarsely. "Why didn't you come for me?" Something inside me snapped. "I didn't even know you existed," I cried. He flinched like I'd slapped him. The nurse grabbed my arm. "Ma'am, he needs to come now." But the third boy stepped between her and me, blocking her path. His voice deepened. "No one takes her anywhere until I get my answers." My stomach twisted with fear. Thomas stepped forward, anger rising. "Move. Now." The boy tightened his fists. I said no. Before anyone could react, a loud alarm blared across the emergency wing. A nurse sprinted down the hall shouting. His heart stopped. "The boy in room 12. We're losing him." The world tilted. The nurse screamed again. "We need the donor now." Thomas pushed forward. I tried to run, but the third boy grabbed my wrist. His voice cracked. "If you leave, will you come back?" I looked at him, this boy I didn't know, this boy who looked like he'd been waiting his whole life for this moment, and my heart broke into pieces. "I have to save him," I shouted. He hesitated. 1 second. 2 seconds. My son didn't have seconds left. Then the boy whispered, broken, "Go." I didn't wait. I ran. But as I sprinted down the hallway, I heard him say one last sentence, one that made my breath catch in my throat. "I'll donate, if she promises she won't abandon me again." And in that moment, 3 boys' lives hung in the balance. One dying, one fainting, one demanding answers. All of them mine. My shoes slapped the hospital floor as I ran. Hallway lights blurred. Nurses rushed past. Machines wailed from somewhere down the corridor. But all I heard was one sentence repeating in my head. His heart stopped. My son, the boy I raised, was dying. Thomas ran beside me, fear twisting his face into something unrecognizable. Behind us, the third boy followed slowly, wrestling with emotions he didn't know how to control. The nurse shouted over her shoulder as she led us toward room 12. "Hurry! They need the donor now." When we reached the critical care room, doctors were performing chest compressions. Machines screamed. A defibrillator was charged. Clear. My son's body jolted off the table. I felt everything inside me break. "No, no. Please." I cried, reaching for him. A nurse held me back gently. "Ma'am, let them work." My knees buckled. Thomas grabbed my arm before I collapsed completely. The doctor shouted, "We're losing him. Where is the donor?" The nurse turned to us desperately. "Is the boy here yet?" I spun around. The third boy was standing in the doorway, chest rising fast, eyes wide as he watched the scene. Fear carved itself deep into his expression. He whispered, "He's really dying." "Yes," I cried. "Please, please help him." He looked at me, trembling, confused, hurting, lost. "I don't know him," he whispered. "I don't know any of you. But he's your flesh and blood," Thomas said sharply. "He needs you." The boy flinched. But then his eyes met mine, deep, uncertain eyes searching for truth, for love, for belonging. "Are you really my mother?" he asked again. Thunder cracked outside. Doctors shouted behind me. My son lay lifeless on the table. I stepped forward, tears streaming, and placed my hands on the boy's shoulders. I don't know the truth yet, but listen to me. My voice shook. You're here. I'm here. And if you need me, I won't walk away. Not again. Not ever. He blinked rapidly, emotions colliding all over his face. I cupped his cheek gently. You are not alone, I whispered. Not anymore. His lips parted. A single tear rolled down his face. And then he nodded. Okay, he whispered. I'll do it. The nurse grabbed his arm urgently. Come with us, now. He followed her into the donor prep room. But before he disappeared inside, he turned back to me and said softly, Don't leave. My chest tightened. I won't. The doors swung shut. Thomas and I rushed back into room 12. The doctor yelled, We need that blood in the next 10 minutes or we'll lose him permanently. My legs trembled. My mind screamed prayers. Machines beeped erratically. The doctor shocked him again. Clear. My son's body jerked violently. But he didn't wake up. A nurse whispered to me, He's fighting, ma'am. He's fighting hard. I took his hand, ice cold and limp. Sweetheart, please, hold on. Your brother is coming. He's coming. Behind me, the door opened. The nurse wheeled in a tray with labeled blood bags. Donor is prepped. The doctor exhaled in relief. Let's begin the transfusion. They worked quickly, connecting the tubes, monitoring his vitals. I held my breath as the blood, warm, red, alive, flowed into my son's body. Seconds felt like years. Then, machines beeped once, twice. A slow, steady rhythm started to form. The doctor leaned closer, eyes wide. His heart rhythm is stabilizing. My knees hit the floor. He's responding, another nurse shouted. I covered my face with trembling hands. Thank you. Thank you. Thomas let out a broken breath and leaned against the wall, tears streaking down his face. He's going to make it, the doctor said, voice softening. He's not out of danger yet, but the transfusion saved his life. Saved. Saved. Because a boy who never knew me chose to help anyway. Minutes later, they wheeled my recovering son out to a special monitoring unit. I kissed his forehead, whispering promises I hoped I could keep. But I wasn't done. I rushed back toward the donor room to check on the third boy. The nurse stopped me at the door. He's fine, she said gently. Just lightheaded. We're giving him juice and snacks. Poor kid says he hasn't eaten properly all day. My heart squeezed. He wasn't just brave. He was starving, exhausted, and emotionally shattered, yet he still saved a life. Can I see him? I asked. She nodded. Only one at a time. I stepped inside. He was sitting on a small bed, sipping juice nervously. His cheeks were pale, but his eyes lifted immediately when he saw me. You came back, he said quietly. I walked over, sat beside him, and took his shaking hand. You saved your brother, I whispered. You saved my son. He nodded weakly. I hope he lives. He will, I said. Because of you. He swallowed. Does this mean I did something right? I smiled gently, tears welling. You did something heroic. His lips quivered. For the first time since I met him, he looked like a child. Can I stay here? He asked softly. Just for a little while? I don't have anywhere else to go. My throat tightened. You can stay as long as you need. He leaned gently against my arm, not a full hug, just a quiet, cautious touch, but it was enough to break my heart open. This boy had never known a mother's warmth. Never been held. Never been comforted. And now, he leaned on me like he had been waiting a lifetime for this moment. Thomas appeared quietly in the doorway. He looked from me to the boy, then said, We need to talk. All of us. I nodded. The nurse stepped forward. Before you go anywhere, one more update. I stood quickly. What happened? She hesitated. It's about the second boy, the one who fainted earlier. Fear stabbed through me. What about him? He just regained consciousness, but he's asking for you. For me. She nodded slowly. He said he remembers something important about the night he was left in that hallway. My heart dropped. Something about who carried him there. I blinked. Who? The nurse swallowed. He said he saw the face of the person who took him from his mother. My pulse hammered. And he said he knows who it was. I felt the room tilt. Thomas frowned. Who? Who took him? The nurse whispered. He said it wasn't a nurse. It wasn't the director. It was someone else. I stepped forward. Who? The nurse inhaled shakily. He said, it was a family member. Silence. A heavy, suffocating silence. My stomach twisted violently. Whose family? I whispered. The nurse looked down. He didn't say. But then she added something that made my blood run cold. He said he'll only tell you when all 3 boys are in the room together. My breath caught. All 3 boys. 3 sons. 3 truths. 3 lives tangled in secrets. And now the one who remembered the beginning was ready to reveal the end. The hallway felt colder than before. Every step toward the recovery room felt like walking into the heart of a storm I had been trying to outrun for 15 years. Thomas walked beside me silently. Behind us, the third boy, the strong, angry, hurting one, followed slowly, still weak from donating blood but determined not to fall behind. We reached the doorway. Inside, the pale boy, the one who collapsed earlier, sat propped up in bed. His eyes were still ringed with exhaustion, but he was awake. And waiting. He looked up the moment we entered. You brought them, he whispered. My heart pulsed painfully. Just like you asked. A nurse closed the door quietly behind us. For the first time, all 3 boys were in the same room. My raised son, still unconscious but stable, lay in another room nearby, machines humming softly. But these 3 were the center of a story that began long before they ever opened their eyes. The boy in the bed swallowed hard. I need all of you to hear this. We moved closer, me on one side of him, the third boy and Thomas on the other. The air felt thick, heavy, ready to snap. The weak boy lifted his trembling hand and pointed to the old hospital bracelet hanging from my fingers. That bracelet. It wasn't lost. It wasn't forgotten. My stomach twisted. What do you mean? He took a slow, painful breath. I didn't just wake up in a hallway as a baby. I remember something from that night. A face. Thomas leaned forward. Whose face? The boy's eyes flicked to Thomas, then to me, then to the third boy. I saw someone carrying me, he whispered. Someone whispering, don't cry. Don't let them hear you. The hairs on my arms rose. Who? I pressed. Who did you see? He swallowed again, fear flickering in his voice. It wasn't a nurse. It wasn't the director. And it wasn't an accident. My hands curled into fists. He continued softly. It was a woman. A chill crawled up my spine. A woman. Thomas repeated. Which woman? The boy looked scared, like saying it out loud might break him. She had your eyes, he whispered, looking at me. Just like me. My breath froze. What? I whispered. She didn't look like the nurses. She wasn't wearing their uniforms. She wasn't supposed to be there. The third boy stepped forward. Do you mean her? He nodded toward me. Are you saying she? No, the weak boy said quickly, shaking his head. Not her. Not the woman standing here. He pointed slowly, painfully, toward the photograph on the wall. A staff photo from 15 years ago. A group of doctors and administrators. I scanned it desperately. And then, my heart stopped. The weak boy's voice trembled. That's her. He pointed directly at the woman standing in the back row. Dr. Helen Carter. I felt the floor tilt. No, I whispered. No, she tried helping you. She helped me. She saved you boys. The boy shook his head. She wasn't supposed to be there, he whispered. She wasn't supposed to hold me. But she did. Thomas's face hardened. Are you saying she kidnapped you? No, the boy said softly. She tried to save me. But someone saw her. Someone else in the hallway. My blood ran cold. Who? I whispered. He looked directly at Thomas. I heard a man's voice. Arguing with her. Telling her, you're messing everything up. Thomas stiffened. Who was it? He asked, voice cracking. The boy looked down at his hands. The room felt like it was holding its breath. I don't know his name, he said. But I remember his face. Then he looked up, straight at Thomas. And my world cracked open. It was you, he whispered. You were the man in the hallway. Thomas's eyes widened. What? No. I was never. But the boy's voice grew stronger, more certain. You were younger then. But it was you. You grabbed my blanket and tried to take me from her. You told her she would ruin everything. You were angry. So angry. Thomas staggered back, gripping a chair for balance. I don't remember. I didn't. This can't. But the boy continued, tears rolling down his cheeks. You fought with her. I remember your voices. Your shadows on the wall. She tried to protect me. You tried to make her put me back. My jaw trembled. Thomas, I whispered, terrified. What is he talking about? He shook his head violently. No, this is wrong. This is all wrong. The boy looked him dead in the eye. You were working with the director. Silence. Absolute silence. Thomas's face turned pale. I wasn't. I swear I wasn't. But something inside me already knew. The way Thomas always avoided talking about that hospital. How he always shut down conversations about the birth night. How he found me that night. So fast. Too fast. You knew, I whispered. Oh God. You knew something happened that night. He didn't answer. His silence was the loudest confession I ever heard. I stood slowly, tears shaking down my cheeks. Tell me the truth, I whispered. What did you do? Thomas backed away, shaking his head. I didn't steal anyone. I didn't plan anything. You just what? I screamed. He crumbled. I was outside the nursery that night, he said, voice breaking. I heard shouting. I saw Helen with a baby. I thought she was the one stealing him. I grabbed the child and told her to put him back before security came. My breath hitched. The weak boy whispered. And she told you the truth, didn't she? Thomas swallowed. She told me the director was selling the babies. My knees weakened. And you still didn't tell anyone, I whispered. I was scared, he shouted. Do you understand what that man could do? I had a wife, a job, a future. I couldn't risk everything. My heart shattered. You risked their lives, I choked. Not yours. Theirs. He sank into a chair, shaking, unable to lift his head. The third boy stepped forward, eyes cold. So because you were scared, we suffered? Thomas didn't answer. The weak boy looked at me gently, painfully. He left me in the hallway because he didn't know which baby belonged to who. He thought walking away was safer. I covered my face with both hands. 15 years. 3 boys. 1 cowardly choice. And everything fell apart. But the boy wasn't finished. He looked at me with trembling eyes. And Dr. Helen, she didn't hide us. She was trying to rescue us. She tried to expose the director, but they silenced her. They blamed her. They fired her. A sob escaped me. And then, the nurse burst into the room. "Come quickly," she yelled. "Your son, the one who just received the transfusion, he's waking up." I gasped. We rushed toward his room. My heart slammed against my ribs. My son, the boy I raised, the one who nearly died, was opening his eyes. When I reached him, his eyelashes fluttered. He blinked, looked around, then whispered, "Mom." I broke. I collapsed into tears. I kissed his forehead again and again. "I'm here," I sobbed. "I'm right here." Then he looked past me, at the two boys standing behind. "Are they my brothers?" The room went silent. All three boys looked at each other, strangers and family at once. I wiped my tears and whispered, "Yes." And for the first time, all three boys were together, alive, in the same room, connected by truth and tragedy, and the love they never asked for, but desperately needed. I placed a hand on each of their shoulders. "From today," I whispered, "none of you are alone again. Not one of you. Ever." The eldest boy blinked back tears. The weak boy nodded softly. My raised son breathed shakily, relieved. Thomas, still broken, stood by the wall silently, but this moment wasn't his. It was theirs. 3 boys. 3 beginnings. 1 mother. 1 truth finally uncovered. I looked at my sons and said, "This is our family now. And we will heal. Together." And for the first time since this nightmare began, I believed it. Before you go, family, tell me in the comments, which part of the world are you watching from? I love knowing how far our stories travel. Thumbs up if this story touched your heart even a little. Hit that like button. Bell subscribe and turn on your notifications so you never miss another emotional story like this one. Memo share your thoughts below. What would you do if you discovered a truth this big? Red heart, your support helps us create more powerful stories every day. Thank you for being here.